Hey everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we will be going through an unboxing and review of Deluxe Class Cheetor. And this version of Cheetor is from the Transformers Rise of the Beasts figure main line. Well, basically the main figure line for the movie. So I've already looked at 3 Deluxes so far: Bumblebee, Nightbird and Wheeljack. To varying degree of good and bad. So here we are with Cheetor, and then Airazor will be coming up soon in the future. So front of the box for Cheetor, a CGI art of Cheetor in his beast mode, and we can see straight through to the figure of Cheetor. Now, for some reason, I keep thinking he's a partial retool of the Kingdom Cheetor. Remains to be seen. We'll see how it goes. But he does look pretty interesting. I don't know why, but kind of reminds me of, to me anyway, it reminds me of some of the unused Trans-Tech designs. But anyway, side of the box, other side of the box. So we have some different variations of Cheetor's head, as well as his little icon symbol. Back of the box, Cheetor, 21 steps, beast mode and robot mode, and this is probably the first time in a while he has a gun. Also, how does Wheeljack manage to get the short end of the stick and only gets 1 accessory? Everyone seems to get at least 2. Or in the case of Bumblebee you get 3, but that doesn't actually save the figure. But go watch the review for that. So now that we've had a look around the box, time to open up the box, get Cheetor out, and do the usual things I do in these type of videos. And with everything out of the box, we have the 2 accessories, 1 and 2. We have a Cheetor who I've tried to make somewhat more presentable, and we have Cheetor's manual. So, quickly looking at the manual. Front of manual. How to attach his weapons, and then how to transform him. So looking at some of those steps, it's definitely not a redeco of his kingdom. Definitely looks like there's some brand new steps and mechanisms here. It's nice to see that his weapon actually does store internally on him, which is very cool. Almost like the good old days of Beast Wars toys, and going through the rest of the transformation till the final 21 steps. Although the positioning of the tail does somewhat remind me of the Kingdom one. And then there you go, so definitely not too bad. And it looks like we will also have some tabbing to keep some of those back legs aligned. Very nice. How cool is that? So that is the manual. Will I need that later? Probably. Quick look at the first accessory. Here's a little blaster, so 2-tone plastic, orange and yellow, and it does have this little flippy mechanism as well. And then the other item is a tail weapon, which he seems to have a lot of, and it looks like this actually will flip down, so that's probably more true to the actual weapon, and that's probably for when it's more of his tail. So if we do that, so his actual tail weapon, which actually looks pretty cool. Let's, I don't know, is it equipped this way or the other way? Let's consult the manual because I wasn't really paying attention. Yes, it is done that way. And then blaster can go into the other hand. Now, one thing I have noticed with my Cheetor, some of his joints are so very stiff to the point I feel if I push too much I will snap them. His elbows being a really good example. So that's Cheetor equipped with his weapons. He actually does look very cool, and yeah, it's actually nice he actually has a ranged weapon. He hasn't had a ranged weapon in quite some time. So that is very cool. So take those away for the time being, one of which we will see in his beast mode, The other one will literally be in his beast mode. So let me just reset the arms. Will you stand on your own 2 cat legs? Yes, you will. So, Cheetor from the front, the side, the back. Now, this is how I just like to try and organize his beast mode legs. This is probably down to general personal preference, really. The other side, and a bit of a close-up on some of his detailing between his head and his beast mode head. A little bit weird to have a maximal symbol there, but whatever. I will admit his head is actually quite nicely detailed. So, in terms of colours, what do we have? So, Cheetor is a bit of a usual, well, more of a darkish yellow, and a bit of a orange, maybe? For that, he does sport some brown, some painted on blue, which actually surprisingly enough is a very Cheetor style with the blue, and he does have some black here and there as well for his spots. Some of this little cabling effect as well as I think in a bit of a painted brown. So that's actually not too bad. His colour scheme is actually quite pleasant. I actually quite like it. And you know, some of these colours do still scream back to actual very typical Cheetor. So that is that. Overall, colours, not too bad. Articulation. Cheetor's head will be able to do a full 360. Has a good amount of head tilt as well, so you can definitely tilt up. Can't really tilt down, but still, being able to tilt upward is actually a very nice novelty, and because of that nice 360, what more could you want? In terms of the arms can do a bit of a 360, especially if you just move them around so they don't actually hit the beast mode legs. Arm can still go all the way out, which is good, all the way to the front, because we do have that nice ball socket in there. The usual upper arm rotation here is still quite evident, which is cool. So that's 2 points of motion. He can do a proper, well, basically a 90-degree elbow bend. So when you combine that, you've got some very nice arm movements there. And lastly, because his wrist is on a ball socket, it can also go fully around in the lower arm. So overall, Cheetor, not too bad with the movement in your arms. He does actually, surprisingly, sport a bit of a swivel in the waist area as well. He won't be full 360 unfortunately, but definitely enough swivel there to help with some dynamic poses when you need to look off center. In terms of legs, you're definitely not a full splits. I think you're just over half a split, so 45 is probably the half split, 90 is the full. Maybe 75-degree leg split. Leg can go all the way out to the front. It is somewhat angled though, it's not going to be a straight leg. Can't really do to the back per se because of how this part of the back skirting is done, so it will flare the leg out if you were to do it backwards. But still, you do have a respectable amount of motion there in the upper waist. The legs will have the 360 rotation as well in the upper leg. In terms of the knee bend, it seems to be your typical 90-degree, which is cool, only the single knee bend. So your knee can obviously do a good amount of movement for a deluxe. And then lastly, the feet do also have a little bit of motion as well, so you will be able to roll it a bit side to side. You can bring it out a bit because it is on one of these little, is that a hinge? I always get confused. But either way, yes, there is some movement in the foot. Okay, so that pretty much brings us to the end of the robot mode component. So articulation's pretty standard. I think the arms are probably the best of the limbs because of some of the articulation there, such as the spinning hands being ball sockets, the swivel, the hinges and stuff like that. So overall, not too bad. I think the only criticism I would have at this point in time with the robot mode is the joints being a little bit too stiff. So now that we've done the robot mode, time for me to try the 21-step transformation, have a look at his beast mode, and then do what would be my personal thoughts on the figure. And with Cheetor now in his beast mode, so what do we have? Front of Cheetor, the side, the back, the other side, top down, and bottom back up. So colors are still the same, although we do get a bit more of the yellow and the, I don't know, kind of reminds me of like cheddar cheese orange / yellow, which is fine. It's very cool. And we still have this large brown contingent towards the back of Cheetor. Definitely some very nice detailing. I assume his mouth does open. I'm just not having any luck with it. And I'm just wondering if I keep doing this, am I going to accidentally like scrape something off? But anyway, definitely very interesting. He does have some detailing here and there, which is to be expected. I mean, looking at the back legs is a very good example. And he has some of this detailing here as well. So overall, aesthetically, his beast mode does look quite cool. In fact, we'll just do a bit of a quick close-up there on the front of his beast mode. So definitely not too bad. In fact, visually it might even be one of the better Cheetor beast modes that has come out recently. That is. I'd say possibly. It comes down to personal aesthetics. So Cheetor will definitely stand quite happily on his own 4 legs, unaided, which is always good. In terms of articulation, so the front legs will definitely have some degree of motion at the very top bit. So basically, where they connect into the main body itself. So a la shoulders. We do have, some decent movement here in the paws as well, depending on what you're planning on doing them. I wouldn't necessarily do some of those ones because it almost looks like you're breaking the leg, but you could probably do some very interesting movement, dynamic posing, and the back ones similar as well. Although you probably just mainly move these up front as opposed to the back because these pretty much do swap out. And that's pretty much it. There is some very nice tabbing here. So there's some tabbing up here of the back legs into the main body. There's some tabbing as well of the arms to the main bottom of the belly. So definitely not too bad with the tabbing. I mean, it does help. So if I was to do this with Cheetor, he's not going to rattle and fall around, which is always a good thing. His transformation definitely wasn't too bad. So I do feel a bit more confident that he was definitely never a retool. And if he was, it's such a heavy retool, it's not coming to mind as to what it was before. Now, for the transformation side of things, so his legs weren't too bad, his arms weren't too bad. I think the main bit that threw me was just where his head, this plating area, just all come together, because the first few times I tried to do it, because his robot head is in here as well, I just couldn't get his Cheetor head to get over the robot head. I suspect that will probably still happen, but other than that, the transformation was pretty intuitive. The tabbing is very nice, so it definitely wasn't too bad. And he has a strong torso. Who would have thought? So that is pretty much a quick chat about his transformation and his visual aesthetic, because given he's a bit of a beast. His articulation is, I'd almost say, easier than a vehicle mode transform. Maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm just getting very tired and very confused as to what I'm doing. So we've had a look at Cheetor, we've talked about his transformation, so yeah, I think overall his beast mode is actually quite nice. It feels a lot slender than some of his previous iterations, at least if you were to compare it against the Kingdom. Might have to do a short of that. Maybe not for this round, maybe later down the track. Okay, bring the manual back. So, final thoughts. Robot mode, I actually quite liked it. There wasn't really anything that stuck out too badly. I mean, there's a little bit of back kibble, that's okay. Cheetor is Cheetor. His joints, well, some of them did feel a bit stiffer than usual, so word of caution to that, because the last thing you want to do is try to move his elbow and then promptly snap it off from the hinge. But other than that, the robot mode wasn't too bad. Solid articulation for its class, inclusion of 2 accessories. You couldn't really go wrong, really, on that front. Transitioning to his beast mode through his transformation, it was just that, as I've mentioned earlier, just the head and the main top of the chest area, just to figure out how that went. Otherwise, everything else is actually quite intuitive and standard. As for his beast mode, I'd say it's a nice, interesting mix of colors. I'm not too sure about the brown. I can understand why it's there, but because it does seem to clash with the other 2 colors, which on their own, they don't fully blend in with each other, so I don't know, a little bit dubious on that. Otherwise, his alt mode is quite nice, a little bit of playability there. It does look quite compact and nice with the way everything transforms together. I'm not too sure about the Maximal logo emblazoned right smack on his head, but it's okay. It's not the first figure I've seen with weird labeling on his head area. So that's pretty much what I think about the alt mode and transformation. Now, as a deluxe mainline toy, can I recommend picking up Cheetor? I'm going to say yes. And the reason why I say yes is that he seems to be almost a bit of a hybrid of the Studio Series Deluxe Cheetor. Although maybe hybrid is probably not a good choice of words. Whilst he has a lot of parallels to his Kingdom release. So it's actually not a bad version of Cheetor. Everything's quite sturdy, has some playability. He's also the first Cheetor with an actual ranged weapon where he's not just solely given a tail-based weapon. So I feel that alone does make him a pretty good investment opportunity. How does Cheetor rank against the other deluxe class figures? Well, everything is better than Bumblebee, so I'm not too worried about that. I'd probably say he's definitely on par with the other 2. He's not overly complex. He does have some things that take a little bit of cleverness to get around, but otherwise, yeah, I think this is actually a pretty solid representation of Cheetor. It's definitely a little bit different. Granted, it's not the actual full movie incarnation. Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed this version of Cheetor. That probably says a lot, possibly. So that'll bring us to the end of the unboxing and review video of Deluxe Class Cheetor. Definitely been very interesting and fun to do. I quite liked it. I mean, overall, I think this is a pretty solid figure, so definitely glad I have this version of Cheetor ready for my collection. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review video. Feel free to leave a like or comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account. Link to that is in the description below. And if you're still watching and listening to this at this point in time, you probably were aware that there was a supplementary short to go with this video. Just some different 360 views of Cheetor to see what he looks like, basically. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in the next video, which will either be Deluxe Class Airazor or just something else on the channel, which could just be my usual Transformers release, which I do on a Friday, or something else. Time will tell. Yeah, take it easy. See you next time.